Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Ball Oasis Show. Pre-draft episode here today, getting back to our roots, back to our beginnings here today. As about 1 year ago today, this is where we started. This is where we started with this channel, post the finality of the season, going into the draft. And we're excited to talk about this draft here today. But before we get into any draft stuff, we would be remiss if we didn't mention the trade that went down on Sunday between the Phoenix Suns and the Washington Wizards that sent Bradley Beal to Phoenix. Man. Kind of happened, I won't say out of nowhere because, it was speculated early in the week that Bradley Beal could be moved before the draft. And we saw that happen on Sunday. But I think the consensus team was the Miami Heat going into the trade process. I think that's where everybody thought he would land, with Phoenix kind of being the secondary team. But Phoenix made it happen. And they didn't have to give up a lot to make it happen, which maybe threw off a lot of people. Jacob, why do you think that the Suns were able to give as little as they did to get a superstar? Well, not superstar, an all-star like Bradley Beal.
I think it had to do with Bradley Beal had the no trade clause. So he basically just got to choose where he went. It was between Phoenix and Miami. I guess it was a good trade for Phoenix for what they gave up, but it was a bad trade too, which probably get to that. But
I'll tell you, go ahead and get into that because there are a lot of reservations that a lot of people have about this trade.
Yeah, I didn't know, but I think they also with Beal, I think they got two more players. It was
they got Brandon Goodwin and Isaiah Todd.
Yeah. I don't like it for Phoenix because next year you're paying your big four, you're paying them like $169 million. And the cap or apron, whatever, is like 139. So you out of just those four players, you're gonna have to run campaign as your starting point guard next year. And those are only five players I think that are under contract next year. So then they can't afford to pay anybody. It's going to be vet minimums, and I guess if they try to get like some second round picks, but they just can't pay anybody else. So it's just those four, and we saw what happened last year. The depth is what hurt them. In my opinion, that's what hurt them against Denver. So you get better, but you get worse at the same time. If that makes sense.
Yeah, this trade currently handcuffs the Phoenix Suns pretty heavily. Bradley Beal's the third option on that team, most likely behind Devin Booker and Kevin Durant. He's making over $50 million a year, which is pretty insane. And I don't expect the Phoenix Suns. I don't think they're done. I don't expect DeAndre Ayton to be on the team around this time next month. I don't expect him to be on the team with, like you said, how handcuffed they are salary-wise. They've got to open up some type of money to be able to bring in some type of bench help. And with all the confusion surrounding DeAndre Ayton's future in Phoenix already, and we saw that the Wizards originally tried to get DeAndre Ayton as a part of that package that was sent to them. So I don't think DeAndre Ayton will be on the Phoenix Suns for that much longer. I think going into next season, he will be on a different team.
Yeah.
And that will open up some more cap if they want to choose to go that direction with it, which I think would be the smartest thing to do. Because, like you said, the Phoenix Suns' depth is just non-existent at this point. But like you said, you get an all-star caliber player in Bradley Beal, who averaged 30 points per game in his last healthy season. So we know he's a bona fide scorer.
Yeah.
He'll be the third option, like I said. So it'll be interesting to see kind of that dynamic where you've got three guys who can create their own shot and score 30 points a night if they really wanted to, which is insane to think about. But I think that they do need help on the defensive end, and I do think that they need to bolster their depth. So I think DeAndre Ayton will be the piece that they'll use to try to do that. I think it just makes too much sense at this point anyway. Having Frank Vogel as the coach of this team is still kind of weird to me. Bringing in a first-year head coach to coach a team that's kind of been put together over the past 6 months, I guess it's just new beginnings in general. Matt Ishbia and the ownership group in Phoenix, they have been very aggressive in their negotiations. So I guess they're just keeping that consistent around the board. But huge blockbuster trade going into the draft process. I texted Jacob on Sunday, or maybe a little before Sunday. I didn't expect this trade to get done before the draft, and literally like a day later it happened. So crazy trade. The Suns will be one of the contending teams, I'm sure, even with their lack of depth right now. I'm sure that they'll get it sorted out somehow with guys who will be chasing a ring, I'm sure, like you said, vet minimums, and they'll probably open up a mid-level exception or a TPE to sign solid guys off the bench. So I think that they're not done. They're not done.
I think the most ideal thing to do is sending DeAndre Ayton to Dallas, because you can get some depth from Dallas. They don't have much to give, but you can get some. I think that's and he's been linked there, so I think that's the ideal thing for Phoenix to do, in my opinion.
Yeah, let's talk quick package for that. You'd have Tim Hardaway Jr. who you could get.
Yeah.
You would have a big either Dwight Powell or Maxi Kleber who you could get.
Reggie Bullock maybe.
Maybe, yeah. It depends on what DeAndre Ayton's value is. I'm sure his value isn't as high as it has been in the past.
Yeah.
But DeAndre Ayton's still a very solid young player who a lot of teams still see has pretty good potential. And the Dallas Mavericks need a big. They need a big. They need a guy to play alongside Luka and to help them on the glass, where they finished last season in rebounding. So DeAndre Ayton could come in and do that. Yeah, Dallas package, like I mentioned in the last episode, has always been I don't know, it's not very enticing to me. But if you're a team like Phoenix who does need to bolster depth, maybe this is the way to go. Maybe this is the one for you.
Yeah, and I don't know how their contracts are, but it could open up some space to sign. But yeah, they got to do something.
Yeah. Crazy trade, though. Bradley Beal going to Phoenix. And with all the rumors that we've seen over the past couple of days, trade season is upon us. The trade season is back. Free agency is about to be back. And going into the draft on Thursday, I'm sure we're going to see a lot of moving pieces. And we're really excited for that. So in today's episode, what we're going to do is I'm going to let Jacob explain what we're going to do here today with this mock draft that we're about to do between the two of us. Jacob, go ahead and explain to the people what we got.
Yeah, we're going to do a mock draft, and how we're going to do it, we're going to alternate picks. So we're going to flip a coin and see who gets the first pick, and then we're basically going off team needs or what we would do, but we're just going to alternate picks and doing the first round, right? Full first.
Yeah, we're gonna do the full first round draft today. So pretty much every team will have a selection.
Okay. So
yeah. So I guess we'll go ahead and get started with this. Like I said, we'll flip a coin to see who goes first. And so let's say I get the first pick. I get 1, Jacob gets 2, I get 3, Jacob gets 4, and just going down in order like that. And like we mentioned before, this is a stacked draft. So I know I've said it so many times on this channel before. I expect our picks to be very different because our scouting process has probably been very different. There's a lot of guys that I'm high on in the 20s who ultimately ended up towards the lottery for me. So we'll see how it goes. But here, I'll go ahead and flip this coin. Jacob, heads or tails?
Tails.
Jacob says tails. It's tails, Jacob. You have the first pick. Wonder who he's going to take.
I think the Spurs had to think a lot about who they're going to take.
Right.
Yeah. So I go Victor.
Why did you go Victor, Jacob? Why?
Generational talent. You don't see many guys 7'5", 7'4", 7'5" that can do what he does. Automatically turns to like a building block, franchise keys, cornerstone for them. Just the upside, he could be one of the best players, if healthy, which we assume hopefully he is. But just the upside to him, he can be definitely easily be the best player in this draft and a top player within a few years.
Well said. Yeah, it's a no-brainer. As we all know Vic at this point, Vic will be the number 1 pick in the draft. He's got generational level talent, and his potential is through the roof, unlike any draft prospect we've ever seen outside of maybe LeBron James.
Yeah.
So insane player we've got at number 1 who we're looking forward to watching in person, who says he will probably play in the summer league, so we will probably see him sooner than expected.
He'll play 3 minutes.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
Yeah.
So I've got the number 2 pick, and I'm drafting in the place of the Charlotte Hornets. Me and Jacob have kind of deferred on this, where I thought that the Hornets should take Brandon Miller, and Jacob has thought that the Hornets would probably take Scoot Henderson. And I'm gonna stick to my guns right here on this one. I'm gonna stick with Brandon Miller at 2. I think Brandon Miller. Usually, whenever you draft like the top 3 or 5, it's not really fit that you look for. You're looking for the highest level talent player. But I think Brandon Miller gives you a great combination of both. And I think that Brandon Miller has kind of been outshined by Scoot Henderson in the pre-draft process. But Brandon Miller is still a franchise cornerstone level player. He is a 6'8" wing out of Alabama who shoots the lights out, has great defensive potential, creates his own shot, explosive, athletic. He's the full package, and he's only 20 years old. Brandon Miller, I think he'll fit great alongside LaMelo Ball and Terry Rozier. If they decide to keep those two in the backcourt, Charlotte desperately needs defense. Brandon Miller could come in and help them on the defensive end. And I just think the idea of LaMelo and Scoot in the backcourt is still just a little, it doesn't sell me completely. And it's not like the Charlotte Hornets are a competing team, so it doesn't really matter. Yeah. But I'm going to go Brandon Miller. I'm going to go Brandon Miller at 2.
Yeah, that's my thought. I think Miller is a great fit. Also, good upside, good potential. So the third pick is your Portland Trailblazers. And don't know what to expect with this pick.
Not at all.
Just we talked about that a lot lately. Even with the number 2 pick, don't know what'll happen. But I'm gonna go with I'm going with Portland taking Scoot Henderson. I know he's had good workouts with Portland, or other teams, of course. Any other year, he'd be the consensus number 1. I guess it creates a logjam, I guess, of guards maybe for Portland. So that would happen, but he would be a great fit. He can drive. He's still really young. I didn't realize he was 6'2" until like a day or 2 ago. He looks a lot bigger. I think draft comparisons to Derrick Rose, I think he'd be a great fit. He could be a great fit with Dame. Just kind of offer that help, on-ball help. But, yeah, we just have to see what happens with this pick. It's really hard to tell what they're going to do.
Yeah. All the rumors that we've seen at this point have been so conflicting that we have no idea what it will look like on Thursday for the Blazers. We've heard everything from they're trading the pick for a all-star to they're keeping the pick and they're trying to find veteran players to surround Dame and draft with the pick. So I have no idea what the Blazers are going to do at this point. I would love to have Scoot Henderson on the team, though. I would love Scoot Henderson in whatever context that is, because I do think that he's a generational level talent as well. But yeah, we'll just have to see what his surroundings end up looking like because there's no telling at this point.
Yeah.
So I'm drafted from the 4th position here for the Houston Rockets. The Rockets have their youth movement rebuild going as well. Coach Ime Udoka brought in for his first year, and they're looking at making some pretty big moves this offseason as well. So their team could look drastically different. Maybe they trade their pick on Thursday.
Yeah.
But if I'm drafting from the space of the Houston Rockets right now, I'm going to draft Amen Thompson. I'm going to go with Amen Thompson, 6'7" point guard, 0.4 type build. He's a great defender, great playmaker. Doesn't shoot the ball particularly well, but he has all the athletic tools coming out of Overtime Elite. Him and his twin brother, Asar, they burst onto the scene pretty quickly over the past year, and it's pretty obvious to tell why. They've got kind of the it factor. And Amen has kind of rose higher on draft boards than Asar, kind of because of his point guard tendencies. Yeah. So I think that could be very helpful in Houston alongside a guy like Jalen Green and Kevin Porter Jr., who I've never believed to be a true point guard.
Yeah.
I've never believed Kevin Porter Jr. is a true point guard, and maybe he's on his way out or Jalen Green's on his way out via trade. So if you keep the pick, I think Amen Thompson is the guy to pick here. I think he is.
I like that pick because if they get Amin Thompson, you kind of expect there to be some type of trade with their guards, or there was news about James Harden, them re-signing James Harden or bringing in James Harden. But if they get Amin Thompson, I don't see that happening because it really takes away minutes from one of Jalen Green or Amin Thompson. So.
Right.
So I got the 5th pick, which is the Detroit Pistons.
I'm interested to see what you do here.
I think I'm gonna go Cam Whitmore.
Okay.
Villanova. I think his athleticism with the Cade, Jaden Ivey, Jalen Duren would be a real fun thing to watch. He's a great defensive player. I believe he can stretch the floor a little bit, but I don't think he's going to be a main offensive option. But the defense in now we're like in a wing dominant league, maybe
Right.
you want to call it that. He has great defensive upside. I think he could really come in and help Detroit, especially if they're going to trade Bogdanovich, like there's rumored to. But I think he'd be a great defensive piece to put next to Ivy, Cade, and just the athleticism is going to be kind of. It makes their offense kind of interesting because just what all they're capable of that they could do with their line.
Yeah, I like Cam Whitmore out of Villanova. I think that he's got the physical tools to be a great defender, and I think that his shot is still developing. I think that could be a big asset for the Detroit Pistons. I think even with them falling in the draft lottery, they're going to get a good player at number 5, potentially with Cam Whitmore. So at number 6, drafting from the perspective of the Orlando Magic here.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what you do here.
Yeah, I might go a little unconventional here because we've known that Orlando Magic have struggled on the offensive end over the past few years. They've been a solid defensive team, and they've got the 6th and the 11th pick of the draft this year. So maybe a little bit of a reach here at number 6 here early on. But I'm going to pick a Florida guy out of UCF. I'm going to go with Taylor Hendricks right here. I'm going to go with Taylor Hendricks, 6'9" power forward out of UCF. Was just in his freshman season last year, and we saw him flash great offensive. He showed great offensive flashes in his freshman season at UCF. His ability to stretch the floor and create his own shot at 6'9". He's a great offensive rebounder, and he's a 3-level scorer. That's the best thing you can really say about his archetype. And I think that's a guy that the Magic can really benefit from having alongside Paolo Banchero and Franz Wagner and all those young guards. I think that Taylor Hendricks would be a great fit alongside those guys. Maybe picking him at 6 is a little high, but I like Taylor Hendricks in this draft. I really do.
Where would you put Taylor Hendricks at? Where would he, if he started, where would he go?
Taylor Hendricks would be my 3. Taylor Hendricks would be my 3.
So is Franz a 3 or is he like a 2? Could run 2.
I'd say Franz ran 3, but I'd run him at the 2.
Okay.
I'd run like Cole Anthony, Franz, Taylor Hendricks, Paolo, and Wendell Carter. Or Markel over Cole Anthony, I guess.
Yeah. I'm so glad we did this because you put me in a tough spot.
Yeah. Drafted for the Indiana Pacers, who might trade their pick too.
Yeah, it could be a lot of picks in the top 10 get traded. So with the 7th pick, it's the Pacers. I hate letting this player fall, but I think I'm gonna go Jarris Walker at number 7. They need that wing help, or especially at the power forward. I think the power forward last year was Jalen Smith.
Jalen Smith played power forward minutes, and then it got pretty shaky after that.
But I think defensively, it's a great guy to put next to Miles Turner if they keep him. Great shot blocker. But that's basically Indiana's biggest need. They're kind of not rounded out everywhere else, but that 4 help, and he'll definitely help. Especially with Tyrese running the floor, like with Cam Whitmore, offense won't be a big priority. It's mainly the defensive upside they're getting him for.
Right. Yeah, I like that pick. I thought about taking Jarris Walker at 6 for Orlando. I really like Jarris Walker as a draft prospect. If I had the 5th pick, I might have picked him over Cam Whitmore, honestly, for the Pistons.
Yeah.
I think that his physical tools. I think Jarris Walker. He's like a tight. He has like a tight end build, and he's like 6'7". So big, imposing guy. Gets on the glass really well, and he's super athletic, and he can create his
Yeah.
own shot. Is the crazy thing. Came from Kelvin Sampson at Houston, a great defensive program. So he's got those defensive tools. I really like Jarris Walker. Okay, number 8, we've got a team who just made a big trade, the Washington Wizards. So it's interesting. This is a really interesting one because Kyle Kuzma just opted out of his player option today. I expect him to be somewhere else in free agency. Kristaps Porzingis might get traded, so this team is like basically scrapped at this point. So we're looking for guys to potentially lead a rebuild. And I might reach a little bit again. This is a guy who in my draft process has just grown and grown and grown on me. And he's a guy that I've seen as low in mocks as like 20, which absolutely blows my mind. But for the Washington Wizards to start their rebuild at pick number 8, I've got Jalen Hood-Schifino out of Indiana going to the Washington Wizards. I love Jalen Hood-Schifino. 6'5" point guard, great defensive tools. In his freshman season, he showed his ability to create his own shot and create for others very well. I just love his potential. I think he has superstar potential in this league. Um, and he's got that it factor. I guess you can call it eye test or it factor.
Yeah.
He's got it. He's got it for me. And you have other guys in this range like Anthony Black and Cason Wallace, and Asar Thompson is even still on the board. But
Yeah.
I think it's time for the Wizards to take a risk. They have nothing left to lose at this point. They have no real pieces likely left on their team, and I think Jalen Hood-Schifino is he's a guy who can man the rebuild. He's a guy who can start the process in Washington. I really like his potential.
Yeah. I'm with the 9th pick. I got the Utah Jazz. I'm going with the Asar Thompson. I don't think he'll fall this far on draft night, but he very well could. And I think it came out today that they're going to shop Colin Sexton. So they do need that guard help. And they kind of surprised people last year for a while. And he's a great, like you said with Almond, he's a great athletic guy. But I think he can shoot a little bit better. I think he can shoot a little bit more. But he still has great athleticism, can finish around the rim. I think he'd be a keystone for not keystone, a great building block for the Jazz, who are going to be building around, Walker Kessler and Lauri Markkanen, kind of just another piece to add to that. Especially if Jordan Clarkson leaves, which I think he might.
Yeah. Asar Thompson is he has great defensive potential, and that's something that the Jazz really needed to address after having a not great defensive season last year. So I think Asar Thompson would be a good fit in Utah. He'll be a good fit wherever he goes. That's the type of player he is. That's both the Thompson twins, really. Maybe they don't have superstar or all-star potential, but they will be good fits wherever they end up going. So I'm drafting for the Dallas Mavericks at number 10. This is another pick that could likely be traded before Thursday night. And drafting a guy to play alongside Luka and maybe Kyrie, maybe not. It's tough. It's pretty tough. But I think that the safest pick here, I'll go conservative here with this pick. I'm going to go Grady Dick out of Kansas. Kind of a sharpshooter, a guy who can create his own shot, but we know him basically for his shooting ability more than anything. 6'8" forward out of Kansas showed he's got a burner. He's got a strap. And he has some pretty underrated athleticism, too. He's not a bad defender. He moves his feet well. And he'll be a good guy to have for Luka to kick the ball out to and create his own shot if he has to. I like Grady Dick alongside Luka.
Yeah. So I have the Orlando Magic's 11th pick. I think the Magic's like the team I'm watching the most for the draft. I think they definitely could trade one of, if not both, their picks. And you took Taylor Hendricks, didn't you? The first pick?
I did.
Or first pick?
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm gonna go Anthony Black here.
Okay.
Which they do have a lot of guards, but I think he's a great two-way player, great defensively. Can kind of run the offense. You could put him at a start role and then try to move off one of your other guards. The Cole Anthony or the Markelle, Jalen Suggs. You can kind of move those pieces around. But I think he'd be great for this rebuilding Orlando team, especially if they can get him and Taylor Hendricks. Those are two great draft pieces they can get that can immediately impact for them with Paolo and Franz and Wendell. I just think that his two-way upside would be really beneficial if he falls to them at 11.
Yeah, that Orlando. Go ahead.
I said I had Grady Dick fall into 11 to help their shooting, but if he somehow falls, I'd love that for Orlando.
Yeah, Anthony Black has been mocked as high as like 6 or 7.
Yeah.
In some of the mocks that I've seen. Coming out of Arkansas, point guard, 6'7" point guard out of Arkansas, like Jacob said, great two-way ability. His offensive game is still kind of raw, but he has good athletic potential. Maybe his shot isn't the greatest, but it's something that he kind of developed in his freshman season at Arkansas. Just imagining a lineup where Anthony Black is your smallest player alongside Franz Wagner, Paolo Banchero, Taylor Hendricks, and Wendell Carter Jr. That's a lineup of giants. That's a big 5-man lineup for Orlando.
Yeah.
So coming in at pick number 12 for the Oklahoma City Thunder, who overachieved last season under Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. They'll get Chet Holmgren back for his first real season this year. So this is an interesting pick. This is kind of a weird spot, and I'm gonna draft a guy who's been another kind of faller, who's fallen like as low as 20. But I think this guy is way better than his draft position shows. Knockdown shooter, lights out shooter, a guy who can fit great alongside Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Lou Dort, Josh Giddey, Chet Holmgren. I'm going to go with Jordan Hawkins out of UConn. I'm going to go with Jordan Hawkins here. Had a great run, title run, championship MVP with UConn. And he's just got a burner, average like 15 points a game, 40% from 3, creates his own shot. And I think offensively, some shot creation can really help OKC open up the floor a little more. Their three-point shooting hasn't been great over the past few years. He's a guy, like I said, knockdown shooter. I think he'll just be a perfect fit alongside what they got going on in OKC. So I'm going to pick Jordan Hawkins here.
Yeah, he could kind of take – who – was Giddey two last year, or was he the 3?
I guess Giddey was the 3 alongside Shai and Dort.
Okay. Yeah, he can definitely come in and provide the shooting they need. So I have the Toronto Raptors 13th pick. I think I'm gonna go Cason Wallace here. Okay. 6'3" guard from Kentucky. Especially Fred VanVleet opted out of his player option, and nobody knows what Toronto's going to do, but they definitely need the guard help. And Cason Wallace is another great two-way guard. He kind of created his own shot. He make pretty well. And I think it's just his competitiveness. Toronto like that. They like that, competitive play style. And I just think as a new building block to add to that young team, he could come in and kind of take over that point guard role a little bit, especially if Fred VanVleet does leave. He can kind of just take the responsibility while they still have competing. I don't know what Toronto's doing with this pick. It's really hard to say.
Yeah, Toronto's been another team that we've seen very active in the trade rumors that we've been seeing. Apparently, they're really tough to deal with, so I don't know if the deal is going to get done, as they might be running it back. But Cason Wallace is a guy that it was tough for me to get a read on Cason Wallace. I think that he has really good potential.
Yeah.
I don't know if I don't know. Cason Wallace is probably the biggest mystery to me. So we always saw him in 1 year at Kentucky, and I don't know. I didn't know about Cason Wallace. I'm glad that you took him this high, because it would be a shame if he fell pretty far down, because I do think that he's really gifted. but he's a guy that it was really tough for me to get a read on.
Yeah, I watched him some last year. I like this play. I had him as high as 9 to the Jazz, but yeah, he's really hard to say what he's. It's hard to say with him. Yeah, I agree. It's just that potential. I'll take. Just have to go off that potential.
Yeah. All right, last pick of the lottery right here, the New Orleans Pelicans, another pick that could likely be traded with the Pelicans being very active in rumors. I'm gonna go big. I'm gonna go big right here. One of the few bigs likely in this draft. I'm gonna go Derek Lively to the Pelicans at 14 to be their backup big. Right now, they've got Jonas Valanciunas as their starting center, who got kind of played out of the rotation last year, so they ended up going small in a lot of games. And Derek Lively at 7'2", great shot blocker, great rebounder, can provide some of those aspects that they kind of missed out on last year. Maybe he doesn't play a lot of minutes, especially with Zion on the floor if he's still going to be on the team. But I like Derek Lively, his athleticism. He's not a guy who's going to stretch the floor or anything, but he's got all the physical tools. I kind of liken him to Jalen Duren in last year's draft. I think that they've got a lot of the same characteristics. So I'll take Derek Lively to the Pelicans at 14.
All right. Give me a second. I messed my draft up. I got to kind of go through and get the players back on there.
Tell me if you need me to tell you any of my picks. At 15 right here, drafting for the Atlanta Hawks, first pick outside the lottery.
All right, 1 second. I was only doing the lottery. I didn't hit the whole first round.
Dang, Jacob.
Who'd you have for the Wizards at 8?
I had I had Hood Schifino. I had Jalen Hood Schifino. A lot of guards. This is a guard-heavy draft. Now that I'm looking at everybody here.
When I did one of my mocks, I had like 4 or 5 guards in a row.
Yeah.
We didn't say Jordan Hawkins to the Thunder, right?
Yes.
All right, had Derek Lively. Okay. All right, should be good now. So with the Atlanta Hawks, 15th pick. I think I'm gonna go Kobe Buffkin.
Okay.
He's kind of made some noise with the pre-draft process. Guard from Michigan. They have Trey and Jonte, but after that, their guards are really, really thin. They don't have a great backup point guard, and he can come in and definitely contribute to that second unit if that's the role you put him in. You might know more about him than I do. I just know his stock has really risen, lately the last few weeks. But I know he's a great guy that can come in and really contribute to that struggling Atlanta team.
Yeah, Kobe Buffkin could be a microwave. He could be a microwave scorer. He's another guy, kind of like Cason Wallace, that I have a lot of questions about.
Yeah.
But I like him to Atlanta. I like him being mocked to Atlanta right here. So I've got the 16th. This is the second pick for the Utah Jazz, and you picked Asar Thompson with their first pick. Am I right?
Yeah.
So with them potentially losing Colin Sexton, like we said, I'm going to go Nick Smith Jr., point guard out of Arkansas here. He's a guy that spent the first half of the college season hurt, so didn't get a great read on him either. But he was a guy going into this year who was as high as like the 5th, 6th pick in the draft. So his tools, his potential is there. 6'5" point guard who shoots the ball pretty well. Great playmaker. His playmaking is probably his strongest aspect. And I think that he would be a great guy to plug alongside Jordan Clarkson and Larry Markkinen and Walker Kessler. I think he's a guy who can really kind of, if they want to move on. Wait, Mike Conley's on the Timberwolves now, right?
Yeah.
Mike Conley's on the Timberwolves. I thought he was on the Jazz for a second. Yeah, Nate Smith Jr. is a guy who can really make really well. I think he'd be a great fit alongside all those other guys they've got in Utah. So I'm going to go Nick Smith Jr. to Utah right here.
All right. So I got the Lakers 17th pick.
That's right.
Ooh, I'm torn. They obviously need shooter. They need a few things.
Yeah.
Uh,
This might be a pick that gets moved too.
yeah, I think it could. I think I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go Noah Clowney, power
Interesting.
forward out of Alabama, because
Interesting.
I guess AD ran a lot of the five last year. Their four was Jared Vanderbilt, which he kind of, I guess you could say they're the same, ooh, same typical like type of player, just defensive bigs. But I don't know because I almost went with I almost went with the shooter here, but I don't know how well they would have fit in the lineup with the current roster they have.
Yeah.
So I just they do need help at the big position, especially behind AD and alongside of them.
Yeah. I don't expect a Lakers rookie to play almost at all.
Yeah,
Uh, so it's tough to know what they'll end up doing, but I really like Noah Clowney as a draft prospect. I think that he's an underrated player in this draft. His ability to stretch the floor at 6'10", he has great offensive potential, and defensively, he has kind of the same tools as a guy like Evan Mobley, who can go up and block shots and protect the rim. So I like Noah Clowney as a draft prospect. The 18th pick belongs to the Miami Heat, which is kind of weird to see the Miami Heat have a first-round pick. Uh, so it's kind of weird to see what they'll do. Obviously, we know that they need size, but with this being such a guard-heavy draft, this is an interesting spot for the Heat. But a guy that I'm high on, especially at his spot, I'm gonna go Leonard Miller at
yeah,
18 to the Miami Heat. A 6'10" small forward, played with the G League Ignite this past season, and he's got great defensive potential, long wingspan, good shot blocker, can get steals. I liken him to OG Anunoby. I think that that's a good player comp for Leonard Miller, coming out of Canada too. Um, I really like what I've seen from him in the pre-draft process. In the pre-draft process, the athletic tools are there, and if he can develop an offensive game too, that'd be great. And I think he fits Heat culture well.
yeah, yeah. I really like for them to get Leonard Miller, especially when they had Cody Zeller, kind of running
Yeah,
the backup big and Caleb Martin at the power forward. He could definitely come in and make an impact already, and Kevin Love, of course.
he's Haywood Highsmith with offense, basically. Heat fans.
Ooh. So I have the 19th pick, which is Golden State Warriors. Ooh,
Weird one.
they don't they don't need anything.
You don't think so?
They do, but so many guards. I don't know. I think I'm gonna go. I might be taking them kind of high. I think I'm gonna go James Najee.
Okay.
I'm gonna go James Najee because they have Kevon Looney as their center. When he came out, it was kind of Draymond as the small ball five, and he kind of declined his player option, so we don't know about that. But he just kind of offers the size that they need. I know they have. Was it JaMychal Green? That's their backup five.
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah,
Wiggins played their five a lot of the time.
so I'm gonna go James Najee, 6'10". Yeah, I think that this is the best thing besides unless they add up another shooter, this would be the best thing I think for them to do. Best available thing for them to do.
Yeah. I was kind of hoping you wouldn't take James Najee there because the center pool after that is so bare.
Yeah.
It's really really bare. But I've got the Rockets here with their second pick of the draft at number 20. Took Amin Thompson at 4 for them. So I think I'm gonna go wing right here. I'm gonna go with Bilal Coulibaly or
Yeah.
Libali
Think
out
about
of France. He's been a guy who's kind of been mocked as high as like 10, as
yeah.
low as like 25. There's a lot of inconsistencies with his position. He's a guy that's pretty fresh onto the scene, coming out of France, played on the same team as Victor Wembanyama. And he's vouched for him to be like a top 10, top 5 draft pick. But he's a guy who I think is very raw, a 6'7" wing. I think his defensive archetype is great already, but his offensive game is still very raw. So I think that would be the concern with drafting him. But I think with a team like the Houston Rockets, who are in their rebuild and need defense right now more than anything, I think that Bilal would be a great, great fit alongside the guys that they've got.
Yeah, they said I've seen a lot of reports he could go high. He's basically if you want a project that could be really really great upside. So he's
Very
great.
raw. Very raw.
So I have the Brooklyn Nets 21st pick. I think they have like 2 picks in a row
Yeah,
right
they
here.
got back.
Uh, that's another team that's kind of interesting to see what they're gonna do.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna go. He's kind of fallen a little bit in our draft. Ooh. I'm gonna go Keontae George.
Okay.
Just kind of, they need the guard help, especially if Dinwiddie gets moved or they got Patty Mills as like a backup. And is there Joe Harris still he's a shooting guard?
Yeah, Seth Curry's a free agent though, so they'll be losing Seth Curry more than likely.
Yeah, so I'll go Keontae George. He has some size, can really really shoot the ball well. Probably one of him and Grady Dick, I think, are the 2 best shooters in the draft. Arguably, maybe third. But he kind of brings in the offense that they need because we saw what they kind of did even in the playoffs. Their defense was okay, just their offense was Mikal, and that was kind of it. Because there's some guys that really couldn't contribute. So I'm gonna go Keontae George.
Yeah. So like you said, back-to-back picks for the Brooklyn Nets. I'm gonna go wing here for them. I'm gonna go with Ryan Rupert out of France, my second France pick in a row. 6'7". He's listed as a shooting guard, but I think that he'll run 3. And he's like Bilal is kind of like a project player where, the defensive potential is there, but offensively he's only shown some flashes here and there. He's a guy that's kind of fallen. He's a guy that we saw early in the draft process be as high as like the lottery, but he's kind of fallen over the past few months. But he's a guy on the little scouting that I've done of him. I've seen good two-way flashes from him, and I think that he'd be a good defensive piece to maybe put alongside the guys in Brooklyn. So I'm gonna go with Ryan Rupert at number 22.
Okay. So I have Portland's 23rd pick, and we took, I believe, Scoot with the number 3 pick.
Yep. I got a guy I'd really like here at 23 still on the board.
I'm looking at 2 guys that could definitely help their small forward and kind of wing depth problem, I guess.
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna go. Then we go Bryson Sabal out of Ohio State.
Okay.
Is that who we were thinking?
No, that's not. But he's good. He'd be good here.
I was going between him and somebody else. Because I think it's Cam Reddish, Matisse, and Jeremy Grant as their wings right now, and 2 of them are restricted free agents.
Yeah.
So they could be gone. Jeremy Grant's free agent, so he could be gone, which I think everyone's expecting him to come back. So he kind of come in and contribute a little bit. He could be like I don't think another project, but I really think Portland, if they go all in this offseason, they're trading this pick too. So it's really hard to tell. It's like I don't know. Portland's the trickiest team to draft for, I guess, right now. But
yeah. I like.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
I just think just for their wing depth, he'd be a great fit coming in, especially with the question marks they have right now.
Yeah, I like Bryson Sabal. I think that he's explosive. I think that he has great athleticism. I think that he's got an underrated jump shot.
Yeah.
Mold and fit wise, I don't like his fit very much. I don't like his size really. but he's got an explosive game, and I think he has a little bit of the it factor as well. So I don't mind too much.
Yeah.
That pick. At 24, I guess I'll make the easy pick here for the Sacramento Kings at 24. Go with Chris Murray out of Iowa. Keegan Murray's brother. They look identical, and their games are basically identical.
Yeah.
So it's I think this would be a feel good moment. It'd be a good pick here, and I think go ahead and bolster your wings. Get both Murrays. Get that chemistry on the team. Why not? This one just makes sense if Chris Murray's still on the board.
Yeah, I like that pick. It'd be kind of funny for that to happen.
Yeah.
So I have the Memphis Grizzlies 25th pick. It's another team kind of hard to figure out what they're going to do. I think this guy's fallen pretty far in our draft. I'm not saying pretty far. He's fell in our draft. Then we'll go Jet Howard here.
Okay.
He obviously shooting guard from Michigan. He's 6'8", 6'8", I believe. With Joggins suspended, they're and there's Tyus Jones trade rumors. He can kind of come in and play alongside Desmond Bane or Luke Kennard, depending on where you want to put him at. And he is one of the better shooters in the draft. So, and obviously, Memphis is a great 3-point shooting team that can make him even better. I guess they might just go best available at that point, but I really like Jet Howard if he falls to Memphis.
Yeah, he's a guy that kind of fell down our board. I'm not very high on Jet Howard, honestly. I don't think that he offers much outside of his shooting.
Yeah.
But I do think that his offensive game, I think that he is, like you said, a good shooter. I think that his game is a little limited. And maybe I'll be wrong about that, but I think that his potential is a little limited. So that's why he's kind of falling down the board for me a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. At 26, this is the second Indiana Pacers pick of the first round. You took Jarris Walker with their first pick. I'm gonna go with another kind of wing guy here. This is a guy who's not super high on the boards, but this is a guy that I've been high on for a long time, and I'm glad to see that he has risen on the boards a little bit. I'm going with Andre Jackson out of UConn here, a 6'6" shooting guard, really small forward by nature, but elite explosiveness, and his shot has gotten a lot better. He was the captain of that UConn national championship team. And I just really, really like his defensive potential. And if that jump shot can come along, he's a guy that I think can be a real difference maker for the Indiana Pacers. I really like Andre Jackson, and I think that he could be a building block of a rebuilding team. So I like him here at 26. A guy you might not know a whole lot about.
Yeah. So I have Charlotte's 27th pick. Took Brandon Miller earlier. I think, like I said, I would take a big here, but bigs kind of fall off after.
Yeah.
After. I think they're not going to be contending anytime soon. I think I'm going to go. Hope I pronounce it right. Derek Whitehead.
Whitehead, yeah.
He kind of. I know he had an injury last year, so he kind of fell. Didn't get to play the full year. And maybe this could be the year they move off of Terry Rozier. Finally, but I think he'd be like a great, just a developmental player, which he is. I know he has become underrated because of the injury, and he was projected pretty high in the draft, and he did fall a lot. But I think with Charlotte, they might take one of the higher upsides of like the late first round.
Yeah, I like that pick. I like Derek Whitehead. He's a guy, like you said, that's kind of been limited in his on the court time with injury over the past year or two. But he's a guy that came in his recruiting class. He was like top 10 in his recruiting class to Duke. So he was a guy that was highly touted out of high school, who's kind of fallen a little bit. But I think that he's still showing flashes. He's super athletic, and yeah, he'd be good for Charlotte. I really like that pick. So at 28, this is the third Utah Jazz pick of the first round. We had Asar Thompson at number 9 and Nick Smith Jr. at number 16. So here I'm going to go with a bigger forward for them. And on this draft board, it's got this guy pretty low, like mid-second round. But I think this guy has really good potential. He was in college for a few years, so he's a little older. But I'm going to go with Jalen Wilson out of Kansas here at 28. I really, really think that he's got that it factor. He's a 3-level scorer, can shoot the ball, he can get to the rim, and can create his own shot as a 4 probably in the NBA. Good defensive player, was one of the captains of the Kansas national championship team last year alongside Christian Brown and Ochai Agbaji. Be playing with his teammate Ochai Agbaji in Utah. So I think that would be a really good pairing. And I like Jalen Wilson's potential. I think that he's got an underrated potential in this league. And when it comes to it factor, I think he's got a little bit of that it factor. Yeah. So I like Jalen Wilson.
Yeah, they got him in the late 30s, even 40s, in a lot of mocks.
Yeah, kind of surprising to me. I guess it's age more than anything.
Yeah,
but I really like Jalen Wilson.
They could go undrafted, but I don't see that.
I don't think so.
So with the 29th pick, I have the Pacers' 3rd pick of the first round. We took Jarvis Walker and Andre Jackson. I think I'm gonna go. I think I'm gonna go with Kobe Jones here.
That's a good pick,
especially with the rumors of Buddy Hield getting traded, which is every year now. But I think he has great upside, especially if you put him next to Tyrese. If you do want to even start him, but he'd be a great guy on the bench. With Benedict Mathurin, depending on how Carlisle had to do that lineup. But I think one of their 3 picks has to get traded, I think, in my opinion. But, yeah, I'll go Kobe Jones. I think he can go really well with Tyrese Halliburton.
Yeah, I like him. I like him coming out of Xavier, 6'5" shooting guard. He's kind of a do-it-all type of guy. He's a pretty player. He's a good scorer. He's a guy that will probably end up going higher than 29, in my opinion. I really like what I've seen from him. Just fit-wise, he didn't fit what I wanted to do, so that's why I didn't pick him any higher. But I really do like Kobe Jones out of Xavier. So last pick of the first round, we'll go to the Clippers, and this is a guy that I don't really expect to play for them, with the Clippers being a veteran team and with their depth already. So I'm just gonna take Emoni Bates here at number 30. I'm gonna take Emoni Bates. Why not take a chance, especially if you're gonna have a guy who might not play. Emoni Bates was like the number 1 player in the class a couple years ago. Of course, we know he played a year at Memphis, transferred to Eastern Michigan. Terrible Eastern Michigan team. But he put up some good numbers, some good offensive numbers. I think defensively he has a lot. He lacks a lot defensively, but his offensive upside is still there. It is. He has good offensive upside, and we've seen him in the pre-draft process impress some scouts. So why not? Let's take Emoni Bates, number 30.
Yeah, he's another guy that can go mid to late to even undrafted, depending on, I guess, who you ask. But yeah, I'll take the upside of it because, like I said, he might not play a whole lot, but I'll take that upside of it.
Yeah, I like this draft though. I think that we did a good job. I think that I'm glad I reached a little bit. I'm glad we didn't kind of stick to the mold of kind of the mock draft. We didn't just go down the list. Yeah. We chose for fit, and we chose some guys that maybe aren't as highly seen from a lot of other mock drafts. But that's just the way that we see it. That's the way that we are going about the process. This is a great idea. This was Jacob's idea, by the way. So it was a really good idea. I'm glad we did this.
Yeah, I'm about to say after the top 10, you really don't know what team's going to do. Pick-wise.
Yeah. I'm glad we were able to keep each other guessing as well. So we had to kind of. Yeah, this was a good idea. This was a fun episode, and Thursday we'll have the live draft. We'll be live for the draft on Thursday. Just come watch it with us if that's what you want to do. We'll be here enjoying the draft and the craziness that's sure to come on Thursday with all the moving pieces and parts that will likely come with it. It should be a great, great draft on Thursday. I'm not even just saying that this time. It should be really great.
Yeah, it's our first live, so might not be perfect, but
yeah,
I still think it'd be a good time.
Yeah.
There, I said before we go, I just got a notification that the Clippers are taking offers on Paul George, or gauging the trade interest in Paul George.
Interesting. It just kind of came out today that Paul George could be a trade piece for that third pick from the Trailblazers. So interesting stuff.
Yeah, Portland can do anything with that pick.
Interesting that the PG Kawhi era might come to an end with their greatest season being a conference finals where one of them was injured. But yeah, so many rumors that we've seen, and I don't know what to make out of any of them at this point. So we'll just see how it goes. We'll see y'all Thursday. Jacob, you got anything to say before we go?
That's all I got.
All right, we'll see y'all Thursday. Peace out.
Yeah.